Hi, welcome to the behind the scenes video for our 2026 Ukraine and Czech Republic trip. We're so grateful for those of you who have prayed for us and donated toward this trip. There was a lot going on, but we really felt your prayers. Our travel was mostly good. It was good. It was just a little bit complicated in some ways. It was planes and trains and automobiles and buses and connections, and that's not always easy through 4 countries. But overall, it was really good. Our bags were always with us, and our health was good. And so, thank you so much for that. Mm-hmm. We really do feel your prayers carrying us. So, thank you for that.
Yes.
We want to just let you know about a few of the deeper stories for this trip. So, as you know, we were in Ukraine. We were in Western Ukraine in 2 cities, Lutsk and Rivne. And Western Ukraine is not really as much of a hot spot right now. This picture was taken further toward the east of Ukraine. But I wanted to show this because this is kind of a picture of what's going on there. It is a lot of destruction. This is kind of like the state of things and the state of the church as well. The churches are impacted in such a deep way. Every part of their lives are impacted with this war. And then the other side of that coin, though, is that the churches are so resilient, and they are reaching out, and they're in the neighborhoods with their communities. They're doing outreaches to senior saints, seniors in the community, rehabilitation centers, teens, and just all kinds of things, military hospitals. So they're doing more in wartime than a lot of churches do in peacetime. And so it's heartbreaking and it's encouraging at the same time.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah, we were really encouraged to see how the church was pulling together in unity and supporting one another, praying fervently together, but also really, really glad to have the opportunity to encourage them. Multiple times people said this has been a breath of fresh air, and they really seem to appreciate our visit.
Yeah, so we were there with a trauma team. We called it trauma team. Philip Adams, which many of you guys know, who's been in war zones many times. And then Craig Combs, who's a combat chaplain for the United States military, and then Russ Adams, who's a psychologist. And so they did a great job training people in trauma counseling, and how to understand people who are going through trauma. They also did a lot of personal counseling. They did this in churches, and they did this in a military hospital. So it was really a great team to go with. They did things that we really couldn't do. One of the great things about this trip is that we had books, walking through grief books in Ukrainian, and we were able to take some of those in, and there were actually already a couple of hundred of them already across the lines into Ukraine at that point. And so we took some more in, and it was a blessing to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. And this is one particularly poignant picture of a veteran at the military hospital who received a copy of Mark's book. And upon receiving it, he said, I really think I can identify with Mark's struggle because I recently lost my wife. So he had been wounded, lost a spouse, and he really seemed very receptive to the message of Mark's book, Overcoming Grief in a Healthy Way.
Yeah, and we're really praying that happens. We actually got another message as I got home from someone who's a missionary who took books into Ukraine and was passing them out too. And there's hopefully it'll help. There's a lot of fruit from that. This is one of the great things we get to do as well. We're in the home of the senior pastor of the church in Lutsk here, and we get to have meals and sit around the table and connect with these people and actually kind of go deeper with them in relationship. One of the things that encourages them the most is that somebody is there, present, and that somebody cares. Sometimes you feel disconnected and you feel like nobody really cares when you're in the middle of a war zone. And these things are even in this part of the country, they've felt the war. Occasionally there are drone strikes there. In fact, just a week before we got there, there was a drone strike very near to where we stayed. There was no problems when we were there, but this is something that they live with consistently. And so to know that there's somebody that cares, and also it's opportunities to just kind of encourage and speak into their lives and just encourage through the scriptures.
So this is a picture of the worship team in Lutsk, and Mark had the privilege of doing a worship night with the team there, and we did some teaching, we did one-on-one counseling, but also did this worship night, and it was a real encouragement. There was time for ministry at the end, and it seemed to really be a blessing to the saints there. So we have a little video of that event.
One thing you can notice is that there's a lot of young people there, and these teenagers have had their world turned upside down. Some of them have lost their fathers in the war. Some of them are wondering what's going to happen to them if this war doesn't stop. They're next. And so this is really a time of upheaval for them. And the great thing about this event is that there was an opportunity to have real deep ministry, not only in the worship, and it was a powerful time of worship, and God really met people, but also, as you can see, in the prayer times afterwards, there were people who came up and opened up, and there was some things that were really, really difficult situations in lives where God reached in and touched them. Mm-hmm. So this is one of the great things that happens. Sometimes we don't get to share these kind of things. They don't always happen, but this was one of those times when worship was kind of came to the forefront in the ministry we did there. And the worship team was really a joy to work with as well. And speaking of working with, this is one of the things that happens with Thrive is that we join together with partnerships in those nations where we are. This is our new friend, Pastor Taras, and Pastor Taras has a ministry that's connected all over the world. If you can see all those little markers on those maps there, these are the nations that he is involved in doing different kinds of ministries. And we connected to Taras through one of the persons who goes to our church, actually, Max Drosian. Max and Galena go to Trinity Community Church, our church, and they lived in Ukraine. Now they're in the United States, but they still go back there, and they have connections there. And this is just part of what happens with Thrive, is that it's not just us, and we are a small part in some ways of it, but we're just going and seeing in the places that we're going to, seeing what is God doing there already, and then how can we bless what he's doing. And so this is, we're hoping to be able to minister along with Taras or the ministries that he does, and utilize those ministries in this coming year in a couple of other countries.
Mm-hmm. So this particular incident, the picture is one of the highlights of the trip, I think, for both of us. This was taken right after a service in Rivne. It was kind of a impromptu service that Mark got to share at, but before the trip, Mark had really received a prophetic word from the Lord about a new season beginning in Ukraine, a word of hope.
Yeah, let me just tell a little bit about that, because it's a super neat story. I was on a call with international worship leaders maybe 3 weeks before we went to Ukraine, and I was telling them we were going to Ukraine. They were praying for Ukraine. It's kind of a prophetic group anyway. And so in the middle of that, one of the ladies from United Kingdom said, I keep hearing this tune over and over and over. And the tune is dum da da dum dum da da dum dum da da dum dum da da dum, which we know is a Christmas carol, right? Carol of the Bells. But she looked it up, and what we found out is it's not originally a Christmas song. It's a very, very old folk song from Ukraine. It's a Ukrainian tune, an old folk song, and it was turned into a Christmas song eventually. But this folk song is about a swallow flying into the house of a farmer at the end of winter and singing out to the farmer that the winter is over and that things are changing and that the lambs, the sheep are bearing their lambs, and the fields are going to be productive. It's about changing seasons. And there's also a scripture in Song of Solomon chapter 2 where the lover is speaking to the beloved, saying, "Arise, my darling, come along. The rains are over and gone. The flowers are here. The season is changing, and it's not going to be the way it was forever." That's the whole point. And so that's the prophetic word, that we don't know the times of this war. Our times are in God's hands, but it's not going to be this way forever. And the night and the winter and the season is coming to an end, and there's a new day dawning that's going to be productive, and Ukraine is going to come into its destiny as not only a breadbasket for literally the grain that comes from Ukraine fed Europe, or feeds Europe even, but also a breadbasket for the bread of life to come forth from Ukraine to other nations. So that was the message.
Yeah.
And by the way, there was no interpreter that night. So guess who got to interpret? English to Russian, because most of the Ukrainians also understand Russian. And she interpreted the whole 45 or 50 minute sermon.
Incredibly, this guy was really inspired by the message and stood in the back of the room recording the entire message. And he came up to us after the service and was just kind of overflowing with thanks and really, really appreciated the message of hope. This is Sergei. He was on the front lines. He was a Ukrainian soldier wounded near Kharkiv, which is one of the main hotspots in the war. So he was 30 meters from enemy lines. He was shot 3 times. He was in crossfire. His fellow soldiers beckoned for him to get off, out of the middle of this crossfire, and he couldn't move because his foot had been shot, and so
it's shrapnel all through his body from a drone strike as well.
3 of his fellow soldiers came and pulled him to safety, and he was sent to a military hospital to recover. Those 3 friends are no longer living. So he felt that God had spared his life. He is very positive, energetic. He's getting ready to go back to the front lines. But he said, I heard that you had a book about grief, and he wanted a copy. And he was thinking the copy was in English because we're English speakers, and was thrilled to find out that it was already translated into Ukraine. He had planned to just use Google Translate to read through the whole book, but was happy that he could read through it in Ukrainian. And remarkably, he pulled off one of his combat patches from his jacket and gave it to Mark, which Mark is currently wearing, as a reminder to pray for those who are in combat and in harm's way in Ukraine.
The last time I was in Ukraine, I was kind of appointed as a volunteer chaplain, given this shirt and the insignias that are on it. And so I pulled one of them off and put this one back on here. It's a reminder to pray. And so would you please pray also for Sergei? God has something for his life. And also he said, can I please take the video and share it with other people? And I said, of course, you can take anything and share it with everybody. Okay, well, we have this guy. I have to tell you the story first before I show you his picture. We came back this was one of the most harrowing things that happened on our trip. We came back from Rivne to Lutsk, and there was a brother named Gregory. That's his English name. But he was a deacon in the church. He was not in the military because he had some sort of disability. He volunteered to drive us home. So he was driving the van. We were in the back of the van. He was driving. We were talking to him. He's got two small children, maybe 3 years old and 1.5. Is that right?
Right.
Two small children. Okay, the military and police work together, and they have checkpoints all along the roads. And so we were pulled over at one of the checkpoints. They check your papers. Hopefully your papers are good. You can go on. They saw something in his papers that they didn't like. And then this conversation began to happen, and it began to get a little more heated and a little more tense. And then suddenly a van pulls up, and several guys come out and just take him. They just take Gregory, and they just put him in the van, and he's gone. He's just gone. He's gone. The whole military and police guards, they're all gone. The whole checkpoint disappears. We're sitting on the side of the road in a van that's still running in the back seat. And we felt so hard. I mean, we were fine, but we felt so horrible for him, because this is a reality. What goes on there is that they can just take you off the street, out of cars, put you in a van, take you away, give you one call, take your phone from you, and take you to a camp, and you're in the military. And then in a few weeks, you're on the front. And this is just the reality. And many of the younger men of a certain age really wouldn't go out on the streets much at all. They're very, very careful about going out on the streets because they can just get taken and just taken to the front. Well, we knew this was a possibility, but this was, to see this happen to this man who we just got to know, and he's a sweet guy, and it just really kind of devastated us for him, for his sake. Well, we called the pastor. We ended up driving the van back to the church, and thankfully later we found out they let him go, because what they thought they saw as a discrepancy on his papers was not. And so this is a picture of him here after the fact. But I will tell you, none of us were smiling before this. It was really heartbreaking, but it opened our eyes to the fact that this really does happen. There are people who get taken every day off the street and sent to the front.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this is this is a picture of a leadership team and us and the trauma team together. And we're actually on the grounds of some land that was purchased for a drug rehabilitation center. And in Russia and in Ukraine, the drug rehab centers are basically the seminaries of the country. And they have been for 20 years or 30 years. This is where people come in, they get free from drug abuse and addiction, and they get fed the word, they get trained, they start ministering, they become pastors in those places, and they are sent out to other places to pastor. And so many of the pastors in Russia and Ukraine really were trained, not in seminary, but in these drug rehab centers. And so this is the ground. We went and prayed for it, and prayed that God would provide the funds for this drug rehab center.
Mm-hmm. This is one of the most heartbreaking experiences that we had during our trip. We were taken to a memorial site, graveyard for those who had given their lives for Ukraine. And this is just in the city of Lviv. So this is a graveyard for soldiers from that particular region. So really it's just a drop in the bucket of all those who have fallen in defense of the country. So it really brought all of us to tears as we walked through the graveyard and saw mothers and fathers, wives and children walking through and honoring their dead. just a tremendous toll on this country, and so heartbreaking. And so we do hope to return to Ukraine in the near future. We have opportunities to partner farther east in the country, and really look forward to continuing to help the country rebuild, and praying that this will end soon.
And we were also, of course, ministering to Ukrainian refugees in Czech Republic. This is the pastor and his wife, Andrei and Ivanka. They are friends from a while back. I've known them for probably 10 years, and in different times I've gone there to minister in Ukraine. And so they came, when the war started, they came out of Ukraine and they started this church in Brno. And then we have our other friends too that we were able to spend time with.
So we were in Czech Republic, close to Prague. So we took a day to meet up with my Russian tutor. I've been taking a couple of Russian lessons a week just to keep up my language skills. But I found this tutor online, and we've become good friends. And so she and her husband took a day off work to lead us on a tour of Prague. We had a great time visiting with them. They were so hospitable, and just really enjoyed building friendship with them, hoping it will continue for years to come, and that we'll be able to continue to share the gospel with them.
Yeah, also just to let you know a little bit about the first part of the trip. The first 2 weeks were really pretty intense, and our time in Prague and just before Prague was a part of that. We did, on the Saturday before Prague, we were in Brno, and we ministered together this Build on Christ seminar. And so this was, I think there were 5 sessions altogether, including the little times we were doing some guided meditation. And then we got up the next morning very early and took a train to Prague, and we ministered 3 times in Prague as well. And so it was like eight times in 2 days with a 3-hour trip in between. So it's kind of like a little bit a break at the end when we're just able to be with our friends there in Prague. And also these are friends of Amy's. This is
this is Rosie and Oliver. Rosie is a former student of mine at the University of Alabama, and we've also become great friends and have stayed in touch over the years. And she is really open to the gospel, and as well as her husband. Increasingly, he lost his father last fall and was sharing with Mark about that during our visit, and was brought to tears in relating that. And he received a copy of Mark's book and promised to read it, and just sense a lot of openness in both of their hearts during this time. So just meeting up with those 2 couples at the end of the trip, I think, was very providential. Lots of seeds sown that we hope the Lord will continue to water and eventually bring forth fruit.
Yeah, sometimes you minister to the masses, and sometimes you minister to a couple, and either one, both are just as important. So thanks so much for watching all the way to the end, and thanks so much for praying for us, and we're really grateful for what you guys do for us. Those of you who get this specific email also got an email recently about coming to our house for a coffee and desserts on the in the middle of May. Is it the 15th or the 17th?
May 17th.
17th.
Sunday, May 17th.
Sunday, May 17th.
2 to 4 p.m.
2 to 4 p.m. right here. And we're just going to kind of recap what's happened in the last year, and also look forward to some things, very exciting things that are coming up in the next year. So if you can come to that, we really appreciate it. Please RSVP. You can just send an email back, or you can text one of us. Yeah. But we love you guys. Thank you so much for everything you do.